Okay, welcome to Gospel Piano, Passing Tones, and Frédéric Chopin. I have a lot to say here, but the basic gist of today's video is I'm going to teach you how to create a passing tone before moving to a 6th chord in any key that you are in. Now, if you're unsure as to what a passing tone is, let me just play for you what a passing tone sounds like. Okay, so here's your nice chords, and then in gospel, jazz, and blues, you have stuff like this. Okay, those are passing tones. So this creates tension. It also serves to create movement in between your main chords. So you can have stuff like this. Okay? So, a passing tone, it's crazy to think that Frédéric Chopin actually uses contemporary blues, jazz, and gospel passing tones in his music. So he is basically the originator, I believe, of passing tones, along with other great composers like Beethoven. They use passing tones to create beautiful music. And the reason why passing tones create beautiful music is because it not only creates movement, but it creates tension. Listen to this. That's tension. Then you have release. So if you don't have ugly tones like this, tones that kind of clash, but then release, then you're not able to make beautiful music. And so passing tones serve to make beautiful music, soulful music. If I were to use a passing tone in Amazing Grace, I would go from a B chord to a G sharp minor chord. But before I went to that G sharp minor chord, I want to create that warmth. I want to create that soulful feel, that feel of tension and then release. Check this out. So Amazing Grace. See that right there? So see how that works? So this passing tone right here, that's what we are going to study, how to create a passing tone before any 6th chord. So to start things off, I'm actually going to play a classical piece from Frédéric Chopin titled Raindrop Prelude, Opus 28, number 15. I'll play through it for you. I'll put it up on the screen right now so you can kind of follow along with me. I'm going to start at the very top, and here we go. So that's the top line. Then I'm going to move down to the middle of the 3rd line. Check it out, where the octaves come in. Here we go. Passing tone right there. And then the resolve. So passing tone right here. Okay, so now check out my hands here. Let's look at the right hand. Basically, Frédéric Chopin here, he's playing in the key of E major. That's what the song is written in. But in the middle of the passage, he actually moves to the key of B major. So don't get confused by that. Frédéric Chopin is creating a passing tone to a 6th chord in the key of B major. So the way that I like to think of things is I like to take theory. I like to take examples, real-life examples from classical music or gospel musicians that I look up to, or things that I learned in church, take all of that theory and those ideas and then condense them into patterns. So that's what I'm going to do here for you. I'm going to give you a solid pattern that you can follow, kind of a recipe that you can follow to create a passing tone before any 6th chord. So if you are interested in what's going on here and how I teach and how I take patterns, how I take theory and condense them into patterns to teach jazz, blues, and gospel, go check out my program. 1 in every 4 of my viewers clicks on that little I up there, and I have a program for sale titled Fundamentals of Jazz, Blues, and Gospel. Let's get back to it. So what we are going to do here is look at Frédéric Chopin and what he did. Okay, so he took this chord. Let's look at the right hand. So the first thing I notice is we're in the key of B, and to make things easy on our eyes, let's get rid of this top note. The reason I'm doing that is because there's already a B down here, okay? So let's get rid of that, and then let's do an inversion of this chord. So let's take this G and move it down here. So all I'm doing is I'm basically condensing the chord so that it's easier to work with. Instead of having a big chord, we're just going to condense it, okay? So instead of having this, we took off the top note because it's a B and we already have a B down here. our G, let's just bring it down to condense the chord, make it small. Here we go. So now let's look at this. This is actually kind of a trip inside my brain of how I think of music and come up with these patterns that allow me to improvise on the fly, whether I'm at church or composing music or playing professionally, backing someone up. So what I notice here is that this passing tone that Frédéric Chopin is playing, if we did the inversion and simplified it, he's in the key of B. So he's using the first note and third note of the B major scale. So there's pattern number 1. Start with the first and third note of the B scale. And then now let's look at our thumb. The way I would think of this is, hey, we're trying to go to G sharp minor, right? That's our destination. And basically Frédéric Chopin is saying with your thumb, basically play a half step below the destination. And it also works out that your thumb can be a half step above. So basically a half step away from your destination, that's where your thumb should be. So you can play this. Since we're trying to go here, we could play this or this. So you have this or this. Okay? So let's see how these two chords sound in Amazing Grace. Here we go. So, here we go. So there's my thumb, half step there. Let's do a half step right here on the A. Okay, so here we go. Sing grace, how sweet the sound. So do you see how it works? In the right hand, we've basically figured out that just take the first and third note of whatever key you're in. We're in the key of B here, so first and third. And then if my destination is a G sharp minor, which is a 6th chord, you can go a half step away and create a right hand chord like this, okay? So that's what the right hand is doing. Now, before we move off from the right hand, let me take it a step further and show you this. So the first and third note here, okay, that sounds nice, but I know from previous experience, and I have a video on YouTube titled Piano Improvisation, One Simple Trick to Sound Top Notch. It addresses what I'm going to talk about here. I know from experience that if I take the first note, the second note, and the 5th note of whatever key I'm in, that these 3 notes will agree with any bass note I play in the left hand in the key of B. So these notes, they're universal to the key of B. So the first, the second, and the 5th note of the scale. So take that. So check this out. Look at my left hand. It's going to go all over the B major scale. So these universal notes right here, what if we then condensed this passing tone before 6th chord in the right hand to basically play these 3 notes instead of the first and the third? Okay, that will give it a more full sound. And then your thumb will just play a half step away from your destination. So we can go here or here since we're trying to go to the G sharp. So you have this. So you have, okay, so that sounds really rich and full. So if you'd like to take it that step further to figure out how to play this passing tone in the right hand, you can think of things that way. So remember, we derived this from Frédéric Chopin. He's the one that basically gave us these notes. So he's telling us that basically before we go to a 6th chord, you can play the first and the third and then a half step away from your destination if you condense it into a pattern. And so that's all we did here, and then we tweaked it and said, hey, the first and third note sound great, but I know that the first, second, and 5th note, since it doesn't have a third interval, no major or minor, agrees with anything in the left hand, I know that I can basically have these 3 notes sound really nice and full and then add in the half step away before I move to the G sharp minor. Now let's look at the left hand. What's happening here? Frédéric's playing a D sharp or E flat, whichever you'd like to call it, before he goes to a G sharp. So this basically is a circle of fifths. You may have heard it in piano, but I'm not going to go into depth here on the circle of fifths. If you'd like, check out the program. Like I've mentioned already, every 4 of my viewers checks out the fundamentals of jazz, blues, and gospel. You will learn about the circle of fifths there. Basically, you can think of it this way. If I'm trying to go to a 6th chord and the 6th chord has a root of G sharp, what you can do is you can just count semitones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, that's easy. Circle of fifths and 5 semitones down. that's what your left hand will play to create the passing tone before the destination is reached. So you would play something like this. Okay? So right here. So if we're trying to go here, so we say in our left hand 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 semitones. And then go to the G minor. So there's our passing tone. So that's how I would condense the pattern in my right hand and in my left hand. So if we were to take this into the key of C and play Amazing Grace, the main chords would be a C chord to an A minor chord. So you can go, so Amazing Grace, right? So you go from a C and then to an A minor. So it turns out that the A minor is a 6th chord in the key of C. Okay, so 6th chord in the key of C. You should be thinking, hey, I just learned on YouTube, on improvpianotips.com, how to condense some theory and some Frédéric Chopin into a pattern to create a passing tone before 6th chord for a gospely and jazzy and funky blues type of sound. And so you should be thinking to yourself, well, if I'm in the key of C, if I want to create a passing tone before the 6th chord, I take my 1st note, my 2nd note, and my 5th note of the key of C. All right? So you have that, and then your thumb's supposed to do what? You should remember from the pattern is basically, hey, I'm trying to land on the 6th chord, which is A minor, so my thumb's trying to land on an A. So what I will do is I will explore notes that are a half step away from my destination, which would be G sharp or this B flat here. Okay, so the right hand is going to be playing this or this as your passing tone before the 6th chord. The left hand is going to do this, count 5 semitones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you have this, and then here. So take a look at that, pause it if you need to look at the chord. My thumb can also change to there. So I'll play both ways to show you how going to the 6th chord, we can use the Frédéric Chopin chord, this one, in B. We can also use that in C. Okay, so here we go. So, see how that works? It's beautiful. So now let's change the thumb. Instead of hitting this, we're going to hit this. So So what you have just learned here is how to create a really cool passing tone to create tension before your 6th chord. So now when you go to play at church or for friends, you can use this passing tone to give it a little bit more of a jazz feel. If you want to give it a jazz feel just very quickly before I close out this video, all you have to do is basically take this chord and play it with the left hand, hitting the root, and then your left hand comes up and hits. So you can do something like this. So I hope that this was a helpful little lesson. If you enjoyed this, I have an entire series with close to 10 hours of tutorials on the fundamentals of jazz, blues, and gospel using theory, using Frédéric Chopin and classical music, and condensing everything into patterns. I'll catch you guys next time. Make sure to hit that subscribe button if you like what I'm doing on this channel. All right, guys, catch you next time. Okay, you made it to the end. 1 in every 4 of my viewers clicks right there to learn how to play like me. As always, guys, don't forget to subscribe for more awesome videos. You can click on my beautiful face right there if you'd like, and your next video's right here.